Welcome to the DevReady Podcast. Today I am having a chat with Greg Twemlow. Nice to meet you, Greg.
Likewise, Anthony. Very good to be here with you.
Well, thanks for jumping on board today. What I'll do is I'll let you introduce yourself and let the audience know a little bit of background about yourself and what you do.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, so look, I wear two hats. I founded a not-for-profit in 2018 called SEVENmile. In my region of Sydney, which is the Northern Beaches region. And SEVENmile helps people who want or need to start a business and don't quite know how to get started. Typically, they're people who don't want to schlep into the centre of Sydney and sit in an incubator or an accelerator. And they're very happy to in their region of Sydney. So we tend to help local people, and since late 2018, we've helped nearly 300 local entrepreneurs. We've helped them in many ways, coaching, mentoring, helped them to find investors and to get started. So that's a lot of fun, and it's made a great impact in the community. So very proud of that work.
Imagine it would
and
be
my other
300
hat
people.
is as founder of Future Skills Studio. And Future Skills Studio focuses on developing experiential learning programs, which we deliver to kind of all age groups, to be honest. Mostly it has been year 9, 10 and 11, so high school students. And that program has been supported by our state education agency, New South Wales Education. And then, Anthony, on November 30, 2022, the world changed.
Yeah, a day that lives in infamy.
And I saw this press release about ChatGPT, and I thought, okay, I need to understand this. So I jumped onto the wait list, and I think a million other people did. From memory, it was pretty amazing. But within about a week, I was given access to GPT, and I kind of just thought, oh my God. This changes everything, was my sense of it.
Yep.
And I knew that I needed to kind of get on top of it and understand it, which I started in late 2022, and I certainly spent all of 2023 continuing to work with GPT and incorporating it into the work we do, both at SEVENmile and at Future Skills Studio. So, for example, Future Skills Studio, we trained over 1,500 students in 2023, and about 1,300 of them used our AI version of our program, our two-day workshop that we deliver. So most of the schools were quite happy for us to basically introduce the students to AI. Some weren't quite ready, which is fair enough because it was lots of change happening and lots of crazy stuff floating around about dumbing down and everyone will just cheat and all that silly sort of stuff. So I've had all of 2023 and I'm still actively using AI in many ways, and that experience, I was able to see a few things that I think maybe aren't commonly being talked about. One is, I started thinking about it in relation to the school setting and classrooms, and thinking about that there's going to be a non-AI class and an AI class in society, which I think will absolutely exacerbate inequality in different ways. I still don't know how schools and teachers are going to manage this in any kind of sensible way. So I think there's this, that's a big issue. And if you can zoom in and look at it from your own perspective and say, well, do I want to be in the non-AI class or the AI class? You can zoom out and think about, your family, think about your kids, think about your colleagues, etc. And you can zoom all the way out and look at Australia as a society and see that probably well, certainly at the moment, at least 60% of people would be in the non-AI class.
Yep.
40% are, in the AI class, but a good portion of those are just playing. Even in the AI class, there's this differentiation between people using free AI and paid AI. And you probably know, I imagine you're probably using paid AI like I am.
We've got a
there's a
GPT
very
Plus
significant
subscription
difference in capabilities between free and paid. So I'm sort of thinking about that as an issue, and I'm trying to raise it, in my own way. And I publish a lot of articles on, I use medium.com. So if you go to medium.com, Greg Twemlow, you'll see 200 odd articles if you're looking for some light reading.
You've got quite a few more than I do.
Yeah. So I tend to try and write particularly about the things that I think are important. I think I'd recommend to anybody, writing is a great discipline. It's just the process of getting the idea from up here into the written word is a great skill to master for everybody of all ages. And I don't care how old you are, how young you are. I think everyone should write. I used to say learning to write is learning to think. And now I say learning to prompt is learning to think.
Yeah, that's a good analogy there.
Because, it's all about the prompt, isn't it? You would know you're using AI, and I've certainly learned that, early 2023. If you're getting a garbage response from AI, it's because your prompt is garbage.
Yep.
So you have to learn how to prompt in order to get a good result from your experience with AI. But so that's one aspect of it that I've noticed last year that I've been thinking about, and like I say, particularly in schools, I have no idea how they're going to manage this.
I'm not sure what they will be doing to help with this AI influx most of last year I saw it was probably fear of not knowing what it can do, and people just won't be doing their homework. They'll just be submitting essays or things written in AI. But it's more about how do you use the tools? Because I think there was a similar thing from what I remember reading about when the calculator was introduced. So when the calculator was introduced in like the late 70s or early 80s, the pocket calculator, then everyone had a big fear of, the calculator is going to do all the work. They're not going to learn maths anymore.
Yes,
but you still learn the fundamentals. You just can achieve the answers quicker so you can get through more work.
Exactly. Well, that was what I noticed last year too, was that in the schools that we used AI, the pace of the learning was much faster.
Yep.
And the depth of the learning was very different, So I saw AI having a very positive impact if it's used properly. And what we found also, because we introduced AI in a way, the program is built around problem solving business problems, basically. So the students were using AI for a very practical means, and they responded really well to that. And, we always did our post workshop surveys, and we had lots and lots of really positive comments from students saying basically they found that experience of using AI to solve problems was really, really good. So anyway, if you're a parent, I am a parent, my kids are grown, but if you're a parent with kids in particularly high school, you've got to think really deeply about whether you can find a way to give them access to paid AI. Because there's going to be students in that classroom who aren't using AI. Parents at home aren't really interested in it. They don't understand it. Teacher doesn't have time to teach them. There'll be students who are using free AI. But I would say if I was a parent of a high school student, I would do whatever it took to give my child a paid AI service.
You see that much
so
value.
That's one of the
difference.
things that came out of our work last year. The other thing, well, I've had, if you go to those Medium articles, you see I write an awful lot. But the other one that I think is really important, actually, is something that I call breakout autonomy. And the way I look at it is, I think that AI, for the first time, literally in the history of humanity, has the potential to help everyone be autonomous. And what I mean by that is, mostly through history, people are constrained in various ways. They may not have been, born into a middle-class family. They might have been born into a lower-income family. There's all kind of constraints on them all through life. Intelligent constraints, financial constraints, etc. AI has the potential to shatter most of those constraints in a way that, and they use the term, and I copyrighted it, I call breakout autonomy, that I think people for the first time ever have the potential to discover that they can act autonomously, that they have agency, and they have much more capabilities than they might have previously thought possible, which is incredibly exciting, I think. So, those are the sorts of things that I discovered last year, particularly through my extensive use of AI.
It's a new frontier, putting it lightly.
Sorry?
It's a new frontier, really.
Totally. Yeah, it is. It's exciting. I mean, it's terrifying. I used to say in the early days, it's simultaneously exhilarating and terrifying.
Yep.
And it probably still is in many ways because it's such early days.
Yeah. So my journey with sort of the AI bit was, I had access to OpenAI's GPT-2 at some point in early 2022.
Oh, okay.
And we were testing oh, cool, I can write some blog posts. And then that's all I thought of it.
Okay.
And then I ignored it. I knew it was there, but I forgot about it. And then the announcement came out on the 30th of November. I didn't really pay much attention to it. I knew it was coming, but to me it was something that helps you write blog posts. It wasn't, I wasn't exposed to that chat interface yet, because the previous one wasn't really that sort of chat interface, which is what made it accessible to everyone.
Then
probably early January, I started using it, and it wasn't until using it consistently daily for like 4 to 6 weeks where I started getting all these ideas on, it's not just to write content, it's got all these different things that can help you with. I think the biggest thing I got out of it is it gives you other viewpoints, because it's not telling you what you know. It brings up the things you don't know normally. So it's other things to think about. And I see it as more of an assistant, not a replacement. So it helps you do things quicker, gives you that first draft to work off without you having to then start with a blank page or a blank canvas, because that's generally the hardest bit.
You find that you can be so much more productive, particularly when you're creating content. And I see it, the amazing thing about it is, in many ways, well, firstly, it's 24/7, right?
Yep.
So if you wake up at 3 a.m. having had an epiphany, you can go to your keyboard and it's there ready to help you turn that epiphany into something more concrete, right?
Yeah.
So it's a collaborator. I think of it as my collaboration partner, and I have had just some of the most amazingly productive collaboration exercises with GPT. It's if you're a sole person, if you're on your own, run a one person business sort of thing, there's not a lot of people around you to help, right? So it's there to collaborate. It's there as your teammate.
Yep.
It can act as your mentor. It can give you, as you just said, honest, objective feedback. It's not going to blow smoke. It's going to tell you what it thinks. If you're younger, then it's your tutor. If your 15-year-old comes home from school having not understood the math lesson, she sits down with her favourite AI and says, hey, I want you to be my math tutor and help me to understand the process of calculating the volume of a sphere, which I couldn't understand today. And half an hour later,
Yeah.
she stands up and she's got it. That sort of thing.
And you can
that is amazing.
Ask, to explain it to a 6-year-old or a 10-year-old and dumb it down.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's totally changed my life. I can honestly say that. And I'm not addicted. I'm not entirely reliant, but it is there whenever I need it. And my experience is that it has an amazing impact.
Yeah, it does. Definitely impact is there. I don't think we're at the phase where it's the worst it's going to be, is what I like to tell people. It's so early that what you're using today is the worst it's ever going to be. So I can't imagine where it will get to, or when they release GPT-5, what capabilities that will actually have, or how much faster it will be, or how much more context it can have, or I'm not sure what the difference it will be.
It's going to be a lot better. You can absolutely guarantee that, because, of course, it's not a one-horse race anymore.
No.
OpenAI has got a bunch of pretty serious competitors. I just started this week. I signed up to a paid version of Claude.
Okay.
So we've got access to the Opus language model.
Yep.
And I'm finding that to be really, really good. It has some limitations compared to GPT, so I'll probably keep both. I find Claude...
They have different uses.
It's some slightly different things, like custom instructions and those sorts of things. GPT still is a step ahead, but I found Claude with Opus 3 to be quite a good collaboration partner for writing. I find its prose is slightly better. It's still not perfect. GPT's grammar is pretty bad. My protocol is that I'll have a collaboration with GPT on something I'm thinking about. And together we've created 5,000 words, but I always parse it through Grammarly.
Yeah, I do the same.
And Grammarly cleans up a lot.
I find the problem with using it straight for content is it uses words for the sake of using words at times.
It does.
It just pads out sentences that aren't necessary. The turns of phrases that it uses are, someone may use them, but it's not anywhere near what you would use or write in your style.
I find that if you can really clearly spot an article that has been written by AI and not, parsed through Grammarly or something, you can spot it in that first sentence. You go, this is AI's written this whole thing.
My model is I work with it, draft up an article, then I'll take an hour to 2 hours and go through it and turn it into my version of an article. But I've got the groundwork laid out in the same way I would have written it without having to write it.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of 80-20 maybe, But
I'm just
things that you can sit down and within, 10, 15, 20 minutes, you can have 80% of something written. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I often find that somewhere buried in whatever it gives you, there is something that okay, I hadn't quite thought of that.
Yeah, always.
And then it leads me to something it hadn't thought of. So there's a bit more back and forth to end up with a much better result. But I still believe, I believe firmly that learning to prompt is learning to think.
Yep.
And in those early days, there was all this nonsense talk about, everyone's going to be dumbed down, it'll do all the work, no one will have to think anymore. I've found in this last 15 months, I have never thought more deeply in my life than when I've been interacting with GPT.
Yeah, I think people's fear was that this was the AGI, like the artificial general intelligence, what you see in The Matrix and The Terminator and all those movies. We are so far removed from that concept that people didn't understand what it was. I've been telling people it's glorified autocomplete. That's all ChatGPT is at the moment.
Pretty much
just guesses
the
next words in a sentence. Yeah, that's my term of phrase that I've been telling people. We're nowhere near that general artificial intelligence that is a thing that can think on its own. It doesn't have context to what you're talking about. It doesn't understand what it's actually saying. It's just trying to please you with the words that it's giving. That's as dumbed down the way of saying
it's trying to tell you what it thinks you want to hear.
Yeah, it's trying to make you happy with its response. That's what it's been told to do.
Yeah, but I still find that it prompts me almost daily, on a daily basis. It's like, oh, I hadn't thought of that. And that leads me to something quite original that it hadn't thought of. And they all gets folded into what is a pretty good end result, you know.
Yeah.
So when I have an idea about something, so I've been thinking, particularly this week, I had a really great conversation with the CEO of a HR consultancy business last week, and she has kind of played with AI. So, you know, just played, but doesn't really understand. And so I was talking to her about, you know, how I might be able to help her. And I said, it's really important that you think about lifting the capability of your team together so that they're all, you know, becoming more strong and more aware of how to leverage AI. And she sort of loved the idea. But what I actually realised from that conversation is this is an issue for every company, every CEO of a small to medium enterprise. I don't mean a one-person enterprise. Is that as a starting point, they're going to have to rewrite every job description. And they'll have to do that to integrate the role of AI in the job. Right, so if you're a marketing manager for a small agency, there was a position description, right? But that is now defunct. It has to be rewritten and incorporate the role of AI in that position and how that position delivers the desired outcomes, etc. So that's like a starting point. That's like, my God, there's 10 years worth of work for HR consultants just doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to impact every part of business.
Absolutely, you know, so it creates incredible opportunities. I think most people don't quite appreciate the scale of the opportunities that are there now that they could be pursuing. So, yeah, it's exciting times.
It definitely is. As part of the work you're doing, say, with the 7Mile and the businesses and startups that you're taking through that journey and assisting, how are you advising them that they need to sort of use AI to probably write a business plan or think about markets and target customers? Or what are they taking on board, or what is the feeling you're getting from them about it as well?
Well, I think it's an amazing research tool for someone starting out. You know, they've got an idea, or they think they've got an idea. And, you know, previously you'd be using Google, right? The difference with Google is Google gives you information, GPT gives you knowledge. So I think as a research tool, we're encouraging people, well, firstly, they've got to learn to use AI, right? So there's a learning curve for them. But I think, you know, it's an amazing mechanism for deep, high-quality research. And then, of course, things about, you know, working toward writing a business plan. Business plans seem to me like it's an artifact of the 20th century. I'm not quite sure.
They are quite old. Things change so frequently. It's hard to keep them up to date.
But I guess, okay, let's say some sort of a plan, you know,
direction.
You know, that the entrepreneur can follow, keep themselves honest, and we as mentors can help them stick to their plan, overcome the barriers, you know, work around a rock in the road, etc. The usual stuff that you would do in your work, I'm sure. And then, of course, the AI is an amazing tool to create the sort of marketing content. So most entrepreneurs, well, they could be a team of one, they could be, you know, two or maybe even three. Often technologists. So they you know, they're not so good with the spoken word, but of course AI makes them good. It makes them look legendary. AI will craft the deck for you. It'll write the script. You know, it'll do a lot of that heavy lifting that takes so much time. And now it's just there.
Yeah, you don't
which is
need
an amazing productivity boost for entrepreneurs.
Yeah, you don't need the team of 5 or 10 to support all of that anymore. You can do a lot more on your own.
You don't need to hire a marketing person in the early days. Eventually, you know, hopefully you do, but AI can fulfill a lot of the roles that, you know, typically you either couldn't afford as an entrepreneur or that you had to, you know, unfortunately spend money on, but now you don't have to.
Exactly, yeah. It's a huge benefit.
I think it does. It's amazing, absolutely amazing. But
With a lot of,
you know what, Anthony, a lot of people still just don't understand it.
No,
Like
they
don't understand it.
It's that divide, like you mentioned at the start, is going to be, it's bigger than people who knew how to use computers and don't. Like my father, no interest in computers. He was a trader.
Sure.
Knows how to use a phone now, but
yes,
I was using a computer in his house when I was 9.
right.
Or 8. He was buying a computer and didn't know what it was. I remember he was telling the guy at the store, it's like, why do I need a mouse? I have them running around the home.
It would make his son happy, so...
Yeah, he didn't understand that. And he was telling the salesman, like, why do we need a mouse? I've got them running around the home, like, as a joke. He didn't understand what the mouse was. But yeah, he's starting to use a phone now, but I could say AI to him all day and he wouldn't know what I'm talking about.
No, of course not. It's not. There always will be a percentage of people who are in the non-AI class.
Yeah, and there's always that
kind of obvious
technology
reason.
gap.
Your dad, will never need it.
No.
He's got a smart, technology competent son who will be using AI.
There's a difference there. Yeah.
So that's fine. But, I even say to people, I think potentially even grandparents do, in a way, have a responsibility when they're looking at their family unit and their children and their grandchildren are kind of jumping onto AI. The grandparents can be leaders, in a sense. They've got time. They can learn AI. They can encourage, the family to also take an interest. And there's so much, even for young kids. I'm not sure why. Do you have kids, Anthony?
Yeah, I've got 2 kids. I've got a 9 and a 6-year-old. So I will be exposing them to it. I've shown them how you can generate pictures and
you know
things
what
like
a great
that.
fun way to do it is to write fiction stories together.
Yeah, I've done that with them.
Take an idea and turn it into a little story that you can read to grandma and grandpa and, stuff.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of fun ways to get started. But in terms of business, it's just incredible, I think.
Yeah. In
so
that,
many ways.
in your mentoring, are you seeing a difference between sort of the tech-based founders versus the non-tech ones in their adoption of AI, or it's really just across the board? It's everyone's interested or they're not.
Yeah, well, the tech guys and gals who are deeply technical, they just want to write code.
Yeah, sounds like them.
I mean, they still do. I mean, they're, of course, progressively coming to understand that they can actually have an AI, stream out a whole bunch, probably 80-20, like we discussed with writing,
Yep.
It can write 80% of the code of something, and then their job is to quality control that and plus add the other 20%.
Yeah.
Of course, the non-tech people are more interested in ideation, collaboration, innovating, that kind of stream of thinking. So I guess that's the difference I see.
Yep. Yeah, so that probably aligns with what we know as well. If you're very technical, you're a developer and engineer, that's where your skills are. If you're on the other side, you're the entrepreneurial founder who is trying to rally the troops to follow an idea rather than pick up the picks and shovels and do it yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the non-tech founders, they have to hope that they strike a quality developer like your organization, because they can spend a lot of money and waste a lot of time if they get the wrong development partner. It happens all the time, man.
I've seen it numerous times. Yeah, we're a small business in Melbourne, and we've seen it so many times over our 16-year history. That's the whole reason, like I was mentioning earlier, that the podcast started. So in 1 week in 2019, we had 5 different founders approach us to work on their rescue projects, as we call them. Between the 5 of them, there was $1.4 million lost in development. And one person was on their 4th iteration.
Oh, it's tragic.
Yeah, so then that's when we thought, all right, this is the story we have to share on the podcast to help people understand that they're not the only ones going through this. And if everyone shares their story, hopefully some people can jump ahead of the queue and avoid those mistakes and make new mistakes that will move them forward.
Yeah, well, we certainly have seen it so often where a non-tech entrepreneur might raise friends and family money.
Yep.
So they've got a pot of money, some size pot of money. and then they go searching for a tech partner.
Yep.
And it all turns pear-shaped, and money was flushed down.
A situation you don't want to be in. I think when you're in that space a bit, it's the friends, family, and fools round, they call it. So they add in that full statement.
Well, that's a good point. the extra F. So it's great that the work you do. I mean, I congratulate you for being a reliable and ethical technology partner for these entrepreneurs. Yep. That's really awesome.
We're all about trying to get people development ready. So DevReady, that's where the name came from. Is also where we want to help build the right product that you need, not the product you're telling us. Because it's not normal how retailer everyone says the customer's right. You don't know what you don't know or what you need. You might be telling us we need this to fix a symptom, but not the cause of the problem. Or you've got this idea, and everyone says their idea is unique, there's no competitors, but a 2-minute Google search generally finds you 10 competitors.
There's nothing original in the world anymore.
No, everything's a remix. We had one guest we interviewed maybe 2 years ago. He was mentioning he was working on like a doggy door, a temporary doggy door they could add into if you're renting. He said he was working on it and didn't tell anyone about it for about 4 to 6 months. And he just Googled it one day, and there was a person who had a business running, and they were about a kilometer away from their house. Like it was even right there in the same area doing the same product.
That's the crazy thing. So when you're a sole entrepreneur and you've got this idea bouncing around between your ears, and you just convince yourself early on that it's original. Oh, this is original. No one's thought of this, right?
Yep.
But as you just described, it's very commonly, there's the same thing around the corner.
Yeah.
They just weren't doing very good marketing. You weren't aware of it.
Yeah, that's the difference. Well, you see it if you think just like in movies. How many times have there been 2 or 3 movies that are very similar ideas that are released in the same year? A couple of years ago, there was 2 different Hercules movies. When I was growing up, there was 2 different comet movies or asteroid movies. There was volcano movies. They're all similar but different.
There's a guy, I really enjoy this guy. He's got a website called Everything is a Remix.
Yep.
So that's where I got that phrase from. Remix,
yep,
right?
That's where I got that phrase from. Is a remix. That's stuck with me for 10 years.
I hadn't thought about it, but he, the way he explained it, it was like, oh my God, he's so right. Yeah. Everything is a remix. And I wrote an article, I think last week or the week before, saying how AI is turbocharging remixing.
Yeah, definitely.
But it has been a thing kind of forever.
I remember watching those videos. I think it was maybe 10 years ago when they were released. That's where I've just continued that phrase, that everything's a remix from that.
And he's right. He's so right. And he talked about, like, there's a really great example of, the brilliance of Steve Jobs, and he was absolutely brilliant, but actually he was a great remixer. Mm-hmm. And he saw independently 3 pieces of technology that he pulled together to create the iPhone.
Yep.
Like they were around, right? They'd been sitting in labs. Mm-hmm. No one could figure out what to do with them. He saw them and he said, I can do something with this.
Yeah.
And voila, we had the iPhone.
Very individual standalone ideas are very few and far between these days. Everything is either built upon something else. Like you said, separate technologies come together to deliver something new.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, it applies in the process and the concept of patents, right? So if you're aware of what a patent examiner does, they look at a patent application, which will always cite what is called prior art.
Yep.
So this existed, but our innovative step is to combine those in a non-obvious way. That's the whole kind of patent sort of world.
Is there something new or novel that hasn't been done?
Yeah, so they call it an innovative step. Prove in your patent application that your patent claim is an innovative, non-obvious step.
Yep.
But patents are remixing, right?
Yeah. It's something there for everyone to keep in mind. It's just because something exists doesn't mean it can't be done better if you combine something else or put things together. That's effectively what Uber was. There was mobile phones where you could make bookings, or like hotel booking systems. There was taxi services. Just put the two together and make it in real time, and that's that service.
There you go. Yeah, you got something really valuable. iPhone changed the world. But
Yep.
it was, and Jobs was a brilliant person, absolutely. But I think he was really a great remixer.
Yeah, that's a great way to put that down.
Yeah.
Well, Greg, it's been amazing to have this chat with you, and I really appreciate you taking the time. If anyone wants to reach out and find more about yourself and what you do at Future Skills or 7mile, how can they do that?
Yeah, just go to the Future Skills website, futureskills.studio, and then you'll see all the stuff. And connect with me on LinkedIn, of course, and go find me on Medium, read some of those 200 articles.
Yep, I'll take a squeeze of those. You've got quite a few more than I do on there. I think I'm at about 50.
Yeah, it was a real pleasure, Anthony. Thank you so much for inviting me to be on your program.
Happy to have you on, and really appreciate it. Thank you.
Likewise.